Good morning. Today we are visiting with Pat Beard at 42 West Arts, where she will be providing a weaving demonstration. By combining interesting colors with textures, Pat does her weaving on old-fashioned looms, several of which her husband built. Although Pat weaves a number of pieces from the same warp threads, each piece that she makes is different. Pat designs clothing that goes from the schoolroom to the boardroom, from everyday shopping to a night at the opera. Timeless shapes in washable cotton are her forte. She also creates huggable pieces by adding quality acrylic yarns into the mix. Sometimes her colors are subtle and sometimes outrageous, but always wearable. Pat is a member of the Cumberland Valley Crafts chapter of the Pennsylvania Guild of Craftsmen and has received Master Artisan status by the Guild. She has also won a few awards along the way, but according to her, it is more important that she has made functional art that people want to wear. Pat describes herself as a genuine fiberholic. Along with weaving, she loves to knit and has taught crochet, wet felting, and needlepoint. She also loves to spin alpaca into yarn. In addition to her fiber arts skills, Pat conducts and plays clarinet and alto sax in several community bands and small groups. Pat's at the weaving loom right now, so let's take a look.
So you were looking at the beginning of a scarf. We have here some plain thread that's going to come out when the scarf is done. I sewed by hand this edging, and then I started the weaving process. This is a weaving loom you're looking at. It's hand built. It's a very simple loom. And as I push down on the treadle, it separates every other thread. Then I bring the yarn forward. So I have a shuttle that has a removable bobbin. And I'll have to show you. I've advanced the warp so I have more space to work. And you can see this opening right here. I've pushed down on the treadle. It's separated the two harnesses. Then I throw the shuttle across and press the yarn into place. This is a simple plain weave. The yarn on this is cotton, and then I'm weaving with a multicolor acrylic. And it'll make a nice soft scarf. As I'm weaving, you notice I'm checking the edges to be sure they don't get out of line or come in too much. It's very peaceful doing this. A lot of times I like to listen to some music. Now again, I'm running out of space in here. It's going to be harder to throw the shuttle across. So I'm going to advance the warp. So the loom itself is a simple machine. Its purpose is to hold threads very tight, and you can feel how tight these are, or you can see it. The new yarn is in the back. It comes up through the heddles on the harness, through the reed and to the front where you can see the weaving. The business part of it is the heddles. So you can see each heddle has a space in the middle. The yarn goes through that space and is captured. Let me show you right here. See how the black yarn is captured in that space right there. On this loom, what I've done to do plain weaving is I alternate the threads between the harnesses. The harnesses hold the heddles. Now, how do I get these harnesses to separate? The harnesses are connected in this area by chains to the treadles, so that when I push down on a treadle, it separates every other thread. Now that gives me a nice opening that I can take my shuttle, and you simply drive it into the opening. That opening is called the shed, and you can see it's like a roof on a shed. Then I bring the beater forward and press that yarn into place. So it's as simple as that. Now, the only problem is if I keep pushing down on that same treadle, the yarn will come out. So if I switch treadles, it actually brings up the other harness and all the threads on that harness. So that allows me to take the yarn back through, the shuttle through, lay the yarn in between, bring the beater forward, and press the yarn into place. So I've done 2 rows right there. So you can see this is a counterbalanced loom. Very simple. You only have either up or down on the harnesses. And my husband built this loom. So you can see up here, I've woven quite a bit. It's about 20 some inches maybe. And you see the very beginning. This was the yarn that I said I'll be taking out when I'm finished weaving the scarf. So you can see I've woven enough now that I'll be wrapping around, and this is the cloth beam here. And as I weave, it winds around. So as we've seen, the finished or almost finished scarf wraps around here and down onto the cloth beam. But this beam right here, which is just in this particular instance a simple piece of pipe, this is called the breast beam for obvious reasons, because you're sitting up next to it. So this would be considered to be the front of the loom, and this is where all the action takes place. Here's an example of a scarf that I've woven on the small loom, and you can see all the different colors. So the one I was weaving is going to come out with a lot of different colors as well. I've finished the bottom of this with a special fringe that is spun on top of itself and finished so it won't come apart. But I also, at home in my studio, have much larger looms, and with that I can weave a wider scarf or shawl. This is a Mobius. In other words, there's a twist in it, and it's long enough that you can double it. So I like to play with things like that. I've been a clothing designer for probably 50 years or so. I have a degree in fine art, and I've been weaving for 35 years. This is another scarf, and it's called the Just Enough scarf because it's just enough to be a scarf. Again, it's a Mobius, there's a twist in it, the twist makes it lay nicer. And you can see over here, there's a number of different styles where I've cut to create the design, woven it on the bigger loom. But I can also take smaller pieces, sew them up, and end up with a hat. Nice warm hat. Of course, on this one, I've put faux fur, domestically raised faux. I hope you get the joke. We were looking at the other Mobius scarves. So this is a Mobius scarf that grew a little bit. I call this the hug because it's a shawl that hugs your shoulders. So when I put it on, and this is something I designed about 30 some years ago because I wanted a shawl that would hold on to me so I didn't have to hold on to it. So it goes around the back. Geometry is wonderful if your neck is cold. So I've woven this with a cotton warp and an acrylic weft. Machine wash and dry. All of my pieces, I try to make them machine wash and dry, other than something with fringe. So this is the regular hug, and we all are missing hugs right now, I think. This would be the great hug, which would do the same thing, but be more. So this is the size, a full-sized shawl, the length the same, but because I've woven it on my big looms at home in the studio, I can make it extra long. So that's all of the Mobius style scarves. Then I also wanted to have a jacket that wasn't a jacket. You know, when you're designing things, you want to figure something out that a lot of different people can wear. So this is a simple rectangle. You can see where I've woven one side different from the other. This is 100% cotton. So it looks like a loose jacket that floats over whatever else you're wearing. So I call it the float jacket. The cool thing about this as well, because I've sewn buttons and crocheted a loop, I can unbutton it, drape it up and over, and now I have a shawl effect. Very comfortable. The last style I want to show you, although it's not the last style I make, is my jacket. This is 100% cotton, again, machine wash and dry. It's a softly tailored jacket, unlined, but with lined pockets. And I use silk fabric for the lining because it's strong but thin. Now you notice, again, I have a right side design. Again, one of the things that I have done for many years is an off-center, one side only design, but it's also in the back. So those are some of my basic styles. Right now, all of these are at the 42 West Arts Gallery in downtown Waynesboro at 42 West Main Street. Pretty easy to figure out. And we are open, you'd have to check our website. For right now, we are always open Friday nights from 5 to 8 and Saturdays from 10 to 2 or 10 to 4, depending on what time of year it is. So right now we're open 10 to 4 in the fall going into the holiday season.
Thank you for joining us at 42 West Arts with Pat Beard this morning. If you haven't checked out this location, plan to make it one of your stops when you are downtown Waynesboro. There are many artisans who have work on site and are happy to speak with you about their craft. As a side note, Pat does offer a weaving class. If you are interested in learning more about this craft, please contact Pat at 42 West Arts. Tell her you saw her video on the library page.